Hi there, I'm Sarah Zarella, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know direct from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning, while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day where you say, I do. After photographing for the past 18 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point, with a fresh, honest take about the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. So I'm very excited to introduce you all to Karen, the owner of Blackstone Caterers.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Karen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How many years have you been in business?
So Blackstone Caterers has been around since 1945, and I have been with Blackstone 14 years coming up this April. My husband and I have purchased the company in June of 2019, right before this pandemic started. It had been a long goal of my husband and ours to purchase Blackstone Caterers.
So basically, was that a long-term goal? Were you working towards always wanting
Yes.
to take over Blackstone?
Yes. Since probably I started in 2007, so probably 2010, 2011, we had known that we eventually wanted to purchase Blackstone, but we also had two little kids, and I kind of wanted to get them into school and a little bit older to take on this new endeavor.
So super exciting. So therefore, you and your husband purchased Blackstone Caterers, and then the pandemic happens.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about the pandemic and what it's done for your business.
Well, unlike, other businesses and even restaurants, for example, they didn't just pause us. They shut us down. So 2020 was kind of a nightmare. We went from a $5 million company down to less than $1 million company. I feel like I was kind of in a juggling act all of 2020 in regards to people just moving their events, canceling their events, wanting their refunds. It was a totally different kind of work that I don't like.
That you spent years, obviously, doing one thing, and then you take over, and here you are, slapped with a pandemic.
Correct. Yes.
With everything that's happening with the pandemic, there's probably some restrictions that have been taking place for weddings and events, but there's probably some pros and cons. What is something that you can probably tell some of the listeners that we have that are planning their wedding and their big day, or their event and their big day, that you actually seen was pretty successful and that you kind of wanted to keep, or you suggest that they keep for their events?
So I guess there was kind of a variety of different things. One of them being the bar service. We were no longer allowed to have bars because people congregate at a bar, so they felt that was unsafe. So we changed it to just complete service. So you were sitting at your cocktail table and you were brought drinks. A lot of our clients made like cute little signature cocktail menus. So we would just, they would order a vodka soda if they wanted, or maybe it's, some sort of martini that's named after their dog. So they really could personalize it as well as make it a little bit more fluid for the service portion. So we definitely have to have a little bit more staff when we do this, but people feel like they were accommodated. They felt like they were given that much better service versus having to go up and get a drink. They were able to just be brought it to right away. And if there was a ceremony taking place, then right as the ceremony ended, which we would just pass, usually a red wine, a sparkling wine, a white wine, and maybe some sort of fun signature cocktail. So everybody got a drink right away anyways. But it just felt a little more personalized, I think. And as an owner and, a caterer with a liquor license, we were also able to control the drinking a little bit more than, people just constantly going up to a bar.
And I would think for the guest attending the event that they felt like more basically, for lack of better terms, catered.
Yes.
And so that is, I think, a definite bonus. I mean, being a photographer, I kind of saw it firsthand.
Right.
I felt that having the bar service not be a walk-up, but then more of a catered service, I just felt took the event to a next level.
I agree. I think the service just went right up. I agree with you.
So, Karen, this actually leads me to my next question for you. Do you offer full-time planning?
So we don't offer full-time planning like a wedding planner. We pretty much work with you from the very beginning. Your salesperson will work from day one when you first call. They'll be there at your event usually that evening. We don't typically stay the entire night as a salesperson, but my event managers and your bridal liaison, they're with you from the moment you walk on the property all the way to the end of the night. We typically handle your food, your bar, linens, china, glass, and silver. And then we also will coordinate your timeline. So we'll work with your other vendors, your photographers, your musicians to be able to say, okay, this is the time, the ceremony is going. Then we lead you right into cocktail hour. So you're not wondering, the clients aren't wondering on the job whether or not, are we supposed to be doing this right now? Are we supposed to be doing that? We'll keep you on the timeline. As far as like handling like your transportation or your hotels or your invitations, we don't handle that part.
So the actual event, though, it sounds like you pretty much handhold the couples from start to finish, and you'll actually timeline and do everything for them. So it just kind of relieves them from that.
Right. We don't want them to be stressed out. We want them to be able to just enjoy their day.
But anything, though, that happens outside of the event reception area, though, that's when if they needed help with planning, they would have to go and get other services taken.
Yes.
So I was actually wondering, do you hire and train your own staff or use temp agencies?
So we at Blackstone Caterers, we hire our own staff. We train them right at Blackstone. So from our culinary team to the back of the house team to servers, bartenders. We have a core group with us all year long. And then obviously since we're pretty seasonal, we'll bring in new people year after year. But we have a lot of like college kids and teachers that have the summers off. They work for us year after year.
That's sort of kind of your story with you and your husband. You just worked your way up. So I'm sure you have a lot of the same faces.
A lot of our staff, our core group, my event managers have been there longer than I have been there. Our culinary team, 30 plus years. So we have the experience.
I can say that. When I show up, I always see a familiar face, always.
Which makes people feel comforted, especially like, a lot of the venues that we work in, a lot of the venue, reps, they're salespeople, they've all worked there for many years. So they like to see the familiar faces.
Speaking of venues, why don't you tell some of our listeners some of the venues that you have exclusivity to? I think actually you are just opening up a new one also. So maybe this is a great time to let people know who Blackstone Caterers represents and what venues.
So we work at many different venues all over southern New England. But this past in 2019, we just got our first exclusive with Blythewald Mansion in Bristol, Rhode Island. And that's a mansion and a tent facility. So it's an outdoor venue, beautiful gardens, ceremony on site. It's my favorite. It's actually the first venue that I took over when I started at Blackstone in 2007. So to now have an exclusive there is pretty exciting. And then the other venue, actually, we just got a few months ago, and that is called Shepherd's Run. It's a brand new venue down in South Kingstown, right behind Prout School. So you kind of don't even really know it's there. It's a little hidden gem. And we've actually just started construction on it in December, and the owners are amazing. The general manager, Susan, she is awesome. We just have a really good banter, and that's going to be an indoor property as well as an outdoor property. So it's really nice because you can kind of have all of those rain plans and contingencies, as well as it's going to be a vineyard, and it will have 10 guest rooms in phase one.
So Karen, those are your two exclusives. What other venues do you commonly work at?
So typically we are at, on a given day, Glen Manor House in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. That's one of our favorites, and we're there quite a bit. Katie, the woman who runs that, her and her husband Don, they're amazing. Actually, that's where my husband and I got married in 2011. Another venue that we commonly work at is Rosecliff Mansion. We are on the preferred list for the Preservation Society of Newport County. The other venue is Eisenhower House in Fort Adams. That's kind of fun because sometimes we're at both of those properties and we can kind of, just bounce back and forth. So it makes my life sometimes a little bit easier. Those are kind of some of the main ones that we work in.
And again, they could probably go right on your website to see some other venues.
Oh, yeah, you can. All the venues are on our website, and if you just click on it, it'll take you directly to that website.
You mentioned something about being at the two venues down the street from each other in Newport. Tell us a little bit about how many events you do per night and weekend.
Right. So on a good busy weekend for us is 4 events on a Friday, 5 events on a Saturday, and 3 on a Sunday. Obviously we have to take in consideration the guest count. However, we won't do more than, if you added them all up, 1,000 people a night. So
1,000 people you entertain. That must make you feel really good, though. I know, seriously. Like, one of the reasons why I know I got into this industry was that we deal with just people having fun and celebrating.
That's what it all is about. It's all about just having fun. At the end of the day, the couple is married. And, it's always like the roses are in bloom, the sun is shining. Like, my favorite day is a Saturday pulling out of Blackstone. And it gives me such a rush. Like, it gives me chills when I see all the Blackstone trucks just going out. And they're all like, the team's just pumped. And it's so exciting. Like, sometimes it brings tears to my eyes when I think about that and when I see it happening. And it's like, and I felt like last year that's what got drained from us and from me personally and from the industry. But I have to say, throughout all of this, I've just tried to stay positive because it's just, I know it's going to get better. And, we have such great clients and, a lot in our venues and our vendor relationships. We're a strong industry and we're going to fight through all of this. And I think 2021 is just going to be rocking.
Yeah. If you ever see a Blackstone catering car on the highway, it's going to or from someone's really, really special day.
Yep, exactly.
And you've helped with that.
Yep.
A big part. The catering, I feel, is just a huge part of someone's day. For me, being a photographer, I am there with our couples from start to finish, but I really see, I guess, for lack of better terms, there's something special when they have a catered event. We know it's ran very well. One of the questions actually that I always get as a vendor is my couples will come up to me and they'll say, "Did you eat? Did they feed you?" People just always want to make sure that their vendors are taken care of.
Which I love that they do that. That's so nice. And I think people, like our vendor friends, get very excited when they know it's Blackstone Caterers because we take care of our vendors. They're our customer. First and foremost, yes, it's the couple, but it's the vendors. We all sell each other and we all, we're a team. It's not like, oh, you're here. It's like, no, they have to eat. And we know as a caterer, sometimes I'll get done at the end of the night and it'll be, midnight and I'll say, I haven't even eaten all day, like myself, but I'll make sure everybody else is taken care of. I'm just still on that energy and that rush. And, and I don't feel like we don't just serve the vendors like, here's a cold sandwich. They get the same meal that the clients get.
Nope. I know when I'm working on a Blackstone Caterers event, I am getting catered meal.
Yep.
Which leads me to my next question. Give us the complete inside scoop. What is one of your favorite signature dishes? And I know you're going to tell me there's a lot, but what is it, Karen, that you love? That when, I put it this way, how about this? When a couple says to you, I want this on my menu, they made the right choice.
So when a lot of our clients, obviously, they do private tastings with us at Blackstone. And, they'll send me their menu choices, and I'm like, oh, lots of my favorites. I would say one of my signature summer dishes, there's 2, actually. One is our seared halibut, oven roasted, with our chimichurri sauce, which is homemade by our chefs. That's fabulous. I want to bottle it up and sell it. And then we do it with a beautiful citrus risotto. And then grilled asparagus with the sauce on top of the chimichurri sauce on top of it. It's just fantastic. It's very fresh. We're obviously in New England. A lot of the venues that we work at, the water's right there, so it's like kind of brings it all together. That's one of them. The other one is, some people are say, oh, I don't want chicken at my wedding. It kind of sounds cheap. And, that's what the kind of the mindset is. But we get our chicken. It's Murray's chicken. It's organic. It comes to us fresh from Pennsylvania. And it's a Statler chicken breast with a little bit of like a little wing, but doesn't go through the entire thing. And it's just oven roasted with a goat cheese potato pancake and a fresh corn salad with a beurre blanc on top, and it's delicious. And excuse me, the corn salad is shaved right off of the husk, fresh corn with some tomatoes and onions, and it just senses summer to me. So it's really making me hungry right now.
It sounds delicious. Honestly, chicken's a people pleaser. As much as they want to say it's a people pleaser,
right?
Which actually, I was curious. How do you prepare your food?
So we cook, we prepare everything is, prepped at Blackstone Caterers in our commissary. We have quite a large kitchen there. But we take the food and it's actually cooked right on site. We bring all of our own ovens that are in our truck, and we cook on site and we plate to order. So it's really nice. So, the one thing that I was saying earlier when we were talking about planning and like what we do, we do the timeline and help the clients with that and work with the vendors because we want to make sure that the food comes out fresh. We want to make sure that if they want if they're having steak and it's, we want it to be medium rare. So we kind of help guide the clients. And if they say, oh, we need 15 more minutes for cocktail hour, we want to go do some more pictures, we will, slow the process down a little bit.
So do you also accommodate special requests like gluten-free, kosher, vegetarian, children's meals? Can you do any of that?
We do all of that. So typically, children's meal, 10 and under, but there could be a 19-year-old that wants a chicken fingers and French fries. That's no problem at all. As far as dietary restrictions and dietary requests, pretty much a lot of our entrees are gluten-free. We try to kind of just stick to that. There's obviously some, and then we can just interchange them with, a goat cheese potato pancake. Obviously, that's not gluten-free, but maybe on the other entree is a roasted fingerling potato. We would just switch that out or accommodate that. The other thing that's a big allergy is nuts. So we don't use any nut oils, or we're pretty much nut-free unless it has a salad where they'll have some nuts on it. But that is we use a completely different workstation to keep it separate from any of the other allergies getting into it.
So your couples can basically tell you who has a nut allergy and who doesn't, and so therefore those people will have a separate complete workstation for cross-contamination.
Correct.
So what percentage do you find are special requests?
I would say about 10% if you take the vegetarians, the vegans, the nut allergies, any of the other dietary restrictions. I would say about 10%.
Also, too, Karen, is there a certain app or drinks that are people pleasers?
If you go to the summer, I don't know why. I think I'm just dreaming of warm weather. So I keep going to
well,
that.
let's go there because I'm sure most people listening right now will be having summer events. So what is something that they should kind of put in their back of their mind to put on their menu that are people pleasers for drinks and apps?
So a couple of my favorites for appetizers, for the past hors d'oeuvres, the feta and watermelon with a little bit of a drizzle of basil infused oil.
That's my favorite.
My favorite. And it's so easy and so simple, but it's one of my favorite hors d'oeuvres. It's almost like palate cleansing. It's refreshing. It's also vegetarian, which is nice. And it's nice because it's cold. It's not hot, sometimes that, in the summer. I mean, a lot of people will do the clam cakes and chowder, and that's totally a people pleaser. Our chowder is homemade, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. But those are a couple of my favorites for the summer. And then as far as drinks, we do a lot of infusion with some of the, our vodkas, or, one of the popular ones is like a frozen lemonade with vodka, with a blueberry vodka, and fresh blueberries in it. And it's just very summery. It's fresh. It's light, kind of we pass that right after a ceremony, and it kind of just says, celebration, the party's here, we just got married, very exciting.
So, Karen, you're talking about a lot of the yummy summer menus. When is a good time for your couples to start doing tastings with you and planning their menu?
So pretty much we customize all of our menus. So we will write a proposal for each client. We'll have, a conversation with them. What do you like? What don't you like? Kind of some, interesting things about the client. Sometimes they have something personal that they want to bring into it. Maybe it's grandma's recipe. The chefs will recreate it. Our tasting season, so they kind of already have a base of what they're kind of starting with, but then they'll actually come in and do a tasting and try hors d'oeuvres and salads and first courses and entrees. And we typically will do that in the year for the client. Our tasting season is pretty much November all the way through March, April, depending on how busy it is. But when it is in season from, high season from middle of May to the middle of October, it's a little bit more challenging for us to take the time because we want to give it that's like an event for us. That's, we're selling the product to the client. So we want to make sure that we can give them 120%. Of our time and our focus for, myself or the salespeople and the chefs. So we will try to do that when we're not busy with other events because we don't obviously want to take our time away from the events when they're actually happening.
Makes a lot of sense. I actually have a question kind of going back to when we were talking about the pandemic and all of the new restrictions that we had to deal with, and then the ones that you want to keep, which is now getting rid of the not service bar. What is it's
like the regular bar service.
The regular bar, because right now we cannot have regular bar service. We can only have a service bar service. So my question to you is, how are you able to regulate alcohol consumption on an event, and does this help you with that process?
So, I mean, it's a little bit of both, but we only serve, they can only have one drink in front of them at one time. We don't allow any shots or anything like that. So they're only allowed one drink. So it just helps us control it. If they're, a little bit low and the server's over there getting a drink for somebody else, then they'll ask, would you like another vodka soda or whatnot? So it does help us control it a little bit. And I think with the fact that people not having to get up makes them feel a little bit more relaxed, and we just
and cater to.
Exactly.
Speaking of the lovely word pandemic, what is the cancellation policy with Blackstone Caterers?
So our cancellation policy is, you cancel on. But before pandemic, or just in general, our cancellation policy is if you cancel your wedding, your refund there's no refund. Your deposit is not refunded. All non-refundable deposits. However, with this pandemic, and not obviously knowing how long it was going to last, we really did work with a lot of our clients to say, could you move your event? We'll take all of your deposits and we'll put them towards the next, when we can do this again, when it is safe to do events. So a lot of our clients did work with us. If somebody did cancel, then we worked it out usually together to say, this is how much some people don't realize. Yes, you hire a caterer, you're getting a service, right? However, there is a lot of work that goes into the back end before the event actually takes place. So keeping some of the deposit, once I explained it to the clients, they actually understood. So we really did work with clients, and they worked with us as well. So it was I wanted, I have to sleep at night too. So I wanted to make sure that everybody at the end was happy.
But now that the pandemic is here and we understand the liability that comes with it, it's the same type of liability that comes with if, unfortunately, if a hurricane happens or anything. What is now the normal cancellation policy?
It's now still exactly the same. It's a non-refundable deposit. And like I said, we're hopefully coming out of it, but we still, had some, springtime events that either moved or canceled. And, if they moved, we just moved them and tried to do our best to accommodate them with all of their other vendors that they're trying to move as well to their new date.
Karen, how often have you planned weddings in particular venues?
So that's a great question, Sarah. I think that's something as a couple, that's a very important question to ask your caterer, because you want somebody that's experienced, that knows the venue, that knows we have a lot of work to do when we get on site. We, unloading all the trucks and setting all the tables and chairs and ceremony chairs. And, it's very helpful when, okay, we know we need these chairs to come out. Okay, let's go get them. They're in the back room, or, this is the loading dock, and, everybody gets there on site at the same time. They know where to park. They know where to go. It just makes for a much smoother event, as well as just, the familiarity with the staff. For example, Rosecliff Mansion, there's, they have, quite a staff on site when we arrive. So it's just helpful for them to kind of see the familiar faces, to be like, oh, okay, Blackstone's here. They know what they're doing. They don't have to kind of babysit us, or we don't have to bother them as much. And it just makes for a more fluid event when that happens.
I would assume there is some logistics that have to happen when you're starting to enter now into unfamiliar areas like private homes.
Right, exactly. Well, the one thing that we will do, private homes are actually one of my favorite because that's where you can really personalize as well. They're more work than going to a venue, in my opinion. A lot of times when we do have private homes, they do have wedding planners, which is nice because there's a lot of different moving pieces when it comes to a private home wedding. But we will go and we will do a site visit at someone's home before we even, go there the first day. And sometimes, which is also really nice with a private home, is we can go and set up the day beforehand, which I love to do because it makes me feel very organized. We get the tables in place. We get the catering tent in place. We know kind of what we're walking into the next day. So again, that makes for a more smoother, fluid event.
Speaking of personalizing your weddings, how can you personalize a wedding?
So a lot of people really love this idea, and so do I, because it makes it more about the couple. A lot of times signage is really huge. Welcome to, Sarah and Brian's wedding, and, maybe having their dog's name on there, or, creating a signature cocktail, something that you might, maybe a his and a hers, that you both drink, or you go out and you do some taste testings. That's always fun. And they personalize it with maybe it's the dog's name or, something cutesy. So something like that. And I was saying earlier, when it comes to the menu, we really can recreate anything for a couple. So if it's, great grandma's recipe from Italy that wants, some sort of, I don't know, something delicious that they've had since they were kids. The bride since she was a little girl, and they want to recreate that and bring that back. The chefs will do that for them too.
And that's pretty amazing because it kind of goes hand in hand with signage too. They can actually put that on their menu or let people their guests know.
They put it right on their menu card, and it's just really sweet. It really brings adds that little touch.
So Karen, you were talking about bringing in grandma's recipe or something that's very meaningful to the family's legacy. What other little tidbits or nuggets that you can give your couples or give our listeners some advice that they can bring to their wedding?
So a lot of the venues that we work in, you're the only event that's happening that day. That's you talk about the Glen Manor House or Blythewald Mansion or Rosecliff Mansion. I mean, all of those, that's their mansion that's their spot for the day. That's where they're getting married. Make it about them, and bring in pictures of your family, like your grandparents and your parents maybe, and maybe bring their wedding pictures and pictures of your dogs or something like that to really put around the mansion or the venue where you're at, to really create, to make it feel like it's your home for the day. Do you know what I'm saying? So
absolutely,
it really can tie in and make it a little bit more personal.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier too, with having signs or signage. Here's a tough one for you. I've always wanted to know this because with every industry, I think that there is certain things that we want our couples to trust us in and just maybe be a little hands off. But then there's also times when you want them to be a little bit more hands on. And this is generally speaking. What are certain aspects of the catering business that you wish that, or you could just, for someone who's listening, just say, we got this. This is the part we got.
So that's when we get on site. When we get on site and they are just, especially if the client is there earlier and they're running around and they're nervous, it happens a little bit more at private homes because they're there all day. They can be on the property. A lot of the venues, they can't be there until, an hour or two beforehand. But we got it. We don't. Sometimes, when we go to a private home, I'll get there and the couple is putting on the linens, and it's just you guys can just sit back and relax. We are professionals. We know what we're doing. We got this. Go have champagne. Go have a snack. Go get your hair done. Put your feet up. Relax. We have this. So I think when it's getting on site. Just let us go. We're the professionals. We know what we're doing. We've planned this the entire time with you. We are going to execute it all the way through the end, and it's going to be a perfect day.
So let them just sit back and get married. So Karen, for a wrap-up question, what is the key points that couples should be asking catering companies when they're inquiring to make sure that they are working with a professional company to ensure that they have a perfect wedding?
So that's a great question, Sarah. Great thoughts. When you're hiring a catering company, they're a big part of your day. So you want to make sure, first of all, that you connect with the person. I mean, when I get on the phone or I hear my sales team on the phone with their clients, you can just tell immediately that they've put them at ease and that we're just as excited as the couple is. So that's the first thing is the connection. I mean, you probably realize that as a photographer, you need to feel connected to the couple as well.
Instantly. I actually know as soon I can sometimes know right away when they are they're yep just totally that magic
magic is happening. I know that they're going to book. I just show interest in what their day, what they want. Some other key points, questions for couples to be asking. One thing would be where is the food prepared? Is it prepared on site and transported in hot boxes and then sits for a while and then served to the guests? Or is it prepared right on site and served plated to order? That's very important for the quality of the food. That's one question.
Karen, what happens if it's made off-site versus on-site?
So off-site, it's really, taking the quality of the food down because it's, sitting in a steamed hot box. So if you've got steaks that are cooked on site, they're going to be pretty well done once they get on site, and then it's also, you're not serving the food right away when you get on site. You have, good sometimes 3, 4, 5 hours before we're actually serving the entree. So it's sitting in a hot box getting, rubber chicken.
Especially when you were talking about earlier that you customize the day. If the client needs a little bit longer at cocktail hour or something, that obviously that's just a little bbit more time that food's just sitting there.
In there, right? So when we are cooking on site, the pro of that is the quality of it. We want our steaks medium rare. We want our chicken to be fresh and juicy and hors d'oeuvres that aren't overcooked. So we're really cooking right to order. And if the client does need a little bit more time, then we can give them that, and we just turn the ovens down or pull the steak out for a few minutes, that sort of thing. So that's a really key point. The other thing that I would say is another good point or question for couples to ask is, are your employees your own employees, or do you hire out temp agencies? Because having your own staff is, as I said, going into a lot of the venues that we work in all of the time, they know the venue, they know the venue reps, they know where to get a mop, they know where the tables and the chairs are all are. So it's really important to know if the client has, if the caterer has worked in that particular venue,
or even like the electricity outlets, things that people don't even think about. You need to understand.
We need to know. We know where the power is of every single venue that we work in. So it's very helpful. Another key point that couples should be asking their caterers would be to how many events will they do on a particular night. When you call Blackstone Caterers, and if it's a Saturday in June and we're sold out, we won't take on the event because we don't want to sacrifice the service for all the other events that have already booked. So we will ask if their date is all flexible, and if it's not, we will refer them to one of our catering partners.
So Karen, I want to personally thank you for being on my podcast today, because I have to tell you, this is my first episode.
Yay!
So thank you so much for joining us, and I really hope that our listeners have learned a little bit about the secrets unveiled behind the scenes of the catering business.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I'm really excited. I'm excited for you on this new little endeavor that you're doing. Blackstone Caterers it's my life. It's my husband's eye business. It's my family. My kids come in all the time. We're really just personalized and really, treat each client like they're a part of our family. And that's how our employees feel. We are a big family-owned business. And all of our employees feel like they're part of our family, and that's how we want our couples to feel as well.
Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. So if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. You can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review for this show on Apple Podcast. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show support and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening.